if we take it that way, even the ones that are asking a question get a lot of exposure. If you share anything, and this is a free open platform, anybody can join. We want you guys to push this out to your friends, invite more people to the Underwriting Power Hour Facebook group, so that because this is the one community where you are actually learning. Again, there are a lot of things that go into doing a deal, but this is probably, I mean, in my opinion, this is by far the most important skill you need. If you want to go faster in your investing career, this is the one skill that you need, where you're going to be able to underwrite 10, if not 100 deals in a day, and quickly find which one's a deal and which one's a waste of your time. Because that's how people, a lot of people come up to me and tell me that, hey, I don't know how you find these 70% minus repair deals. That's because I'm underwriting hundreds and you are underwriting less than 10, probably in a month, and I'm underwriting hundreds in a day sometimes. I mean, that may be a slight exaggeration, but I mean, hundreds in a week is pretty normal week for me. So that's how you find a deal. Finding a deal is just a numbers game, just like marketing or anything else. And finding deals to underwrite is a no-brainer. And Jada can tell you more than anybody else. Jada is amazing at how to like promote herself, how to market her brand. So when you are more active on social media, when you are putting yourself out there, you are gonna attract a lot of people that are selling deals. So that is, I mean, again, it's easier said than done, and I'm also learning myself. But I would say, when you raise your hand and tell everyone that you're a buyer or a connector or whoever you are, people are going to send you deals. But the question or the real bottleneck is going to come where can you go through that much data in a day, in a week, in a month? And that's where this skill is going to come in handy. We are going to show you like how to quickly, like 5-second underwriting, then 1 minute underwriting, and then 1 hour underwriting, and then full blown underwriting where you actually visit the property and make a full decision. Sometimes you have to make quick decisions, and there are certain properties that are such a sweet deal that your 5-second underwriting can decide whether it's a deal or not. But if you never get to it and you get stuck on that first one that needs full 24-hour underwriting, and you don't rule that out within 5 seconds, you're never going to get to that 10th or 20th or 100th deal in your inbox, which actually is going to make you $100,000. So that is how you should think about this community. That's why underwriting is so important. A lot of people teach you how to hustle, but this is the smarter way to hustle.
Now, speaking about that, Xavier, I know you had your hand up. What question do you have?
So first of all, thank you for this. I appreciate it. I got your invitation when I was posting for a deal that I was trying to underwrite the other, I think a week and a half ago. It was a multifamily that, long story short, it was a hot deal in the city. I got the first call from the agent, and it was quite a big deal. It was quite prime real estate. But long story short, the deal was sold. But I got the reason for my call, I mean, for joining you guys. I wanted to see first the underwriting skills that maybe I can learn, because I find myself, like many of us that are real estate closers, I guess we could define ourselves, closing deals, but we have to basically be very quick in underwriting in terms of getting a conversation started. And so as much as I like spreadsheets and stuff, I struggle a bit with making sense of some deals, because first of all, we got to be in the conversation. Second, we got to be in the numbers. So I was wondering, I'm still driving. I have like 3 minutes to get to the place where I can fully sit and kind of share info. But I was wondering if you guys, when you guys are looking across the states, and the criteria is different, the stuff is different. When you look at data, you're looking at historical data. And I wanted to know if you guys compare like the historical data with current market trends, and you say like, okay, example, like rental rates sometimes say, historical data like $980, for example, for a deal. But then you look it up in Zillow. Zillow says there's current rents in the market at asking price for like 1,100. So then how do you make sense of historical data and these differences between historical data and current data? And like, how do you find a middle ground for getting accurate data when there's that gap, like the other guy was asking, when there's no comps sometimes, or when you're looking at a deal, do you just base it off on medium metrics? Like, do you use statistics at all in terms of like medium metrics, like the standard deviation, or that's just too much? Like, I'm curious to see, like, yeah, how much do you guys look into data?
No, great question, first of all. So, and I'll tell you why. It's a multi-layered question, but I'll simplify. I mean, I'll try to break it down and make it as easy as possible. So you had a deal sent to you. How many units was that?
Oh, this was 46 units, and then the remaining part of the building was still being converted to other units. So basically, it was a big building where students. It was basically a student building up in Philadelphia. All right. Yeah.
So everything I said earlier, more so it applies to single family properties. Okay. Single family properties are super easy to deal with compared to a multifamily or commercial or storage or all these things. So single family is still very raw. It's not whenever there are investors that are let's say there is an investment company that started buying single family properties and they graduate to where now they want economies of scale. So now they're looking at multifamily properties because they can buy 100 units at a time, or if not 400, 500 units at a time. So lot of companies that grow to a decent level, they grow out of single family properties and then and go to multifamily or commercial or other things. So when you go to multifamily and up, there is very tight competition in that space. So the 5-second underwriting rule is not going to apply there. There is a lot that goes into it. The first and very important thing to remember in case of multifamily is most multifamily sellers, they go to a broker or an agent, someone who is sophisticated in this market to sell their property. So oftentimes you're not going to get a 70% minus repairs type of scenario in case of multifamily. And if you did, then there is something really, really there is something really serious going on that you need to learn and research. And I mean, even 24 hours is not enough time to know whether it's a good deal or not. Okay, so that's why most multifamily deals go through 45 to 60-day due diligence. Okay, so multifamily is a completely different topic because a lot of people so the simplest way to think about multifamily versus single family is when you're buying, it is still possible to buy a single family property and walk in to the deal with a lot of equity. That means you made money at purchase. Okay, single family really, that's why single family is so easy. You can do 4 or 5 deals a year very easily if you learn enough underwriting. But multifamily properties, they sell at a certain number because there is something seriously wrong about that property. And then when you purchase, you're not walking into the equity situation, even though you get a good deal. You have to add value to multifamily deal and then make it cash flowing, and then you realize that value at sale. So it's not like single family. So you need to know everything about operations and how to run multifamily deals uh, before you start underwriting and doing things. So it can um, it can justify formal education in a way. Okay, so having said that, lot of these big companies that are going after multifamily properties are looking at a minimum of 100 unit deals, because at 100 unit level it becomes economically viable to hire a hire staff, have maintenance person on site, all these things, good things. So anything below 100 or maybe anything below 70, 80 is where you still see some unsophisticated ways of selling and stuff like that, like single family. So if it's a 46 unit deal, it may or may not be a great deal. I can't tell you. But if you just rule of thumb to remember, if you know this property is being sold for say 50,000 a door, and you know the rents in that area are over, say, over $1,000, $1,200, that means uh, you're getting more than 2% rent ratio. Okay, so monthly rent is more than 2% of the purchase of the property. That's what 2% rule means. So in that scenario, you should be intrigued, but not make a decision, and then ask for more information. Because a lot of times you're buying it for 50,000 a door, but it needs, I mean, you need to sit on it for 6 months plus add another 10, 15,000 per door in rehab. So the costs can rack up very quickly, where it may not make sense. For example, if you're buying in Texas, the taxes and insurance are through the roof over the last couple years. So you need to really, I mean, even that 2%, again, 2% is still a good number, but the way they are selling right now, it's looking attractive, but it's really not, because uh, your insurance and tax numbers are really high today. So you need to be buying it a lot lower, because the sellers that are coming to market to sell, they purchased their properties 10 years ago, and their insurances, their tax rates are a lot lower, and they're expecting to sell it at a higher price. But now today's scenario, the economic, it's not economical to pay that price, because your cost is going to be different when you buy. So when you are trying to, I mean, so you need to really decide what you are trying to achieve. Okay, if you are trying to buy multifamily properties, then the underwriting process is completely different. I hope that answers your question, or at least builds some perspective.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I learned by hearing from you that basically at an institutional level, we're looking at about 100 units plus. And
Correct.
and then the deal basically justifies management and operational, expenses, and then it becomes attractive for sort of like an institutional buyer. So then the numbers actually start to make sense for basically underwriting a bigger deal, which basically attracts the right buyers. Otherwise, you're saying
Correct.
is Otherwise, you're saying is basically the deal is too small, and then it attracts an unsophisticated buyer that basically is going to deal with some problems and some deals where basically there's some income generation issues. Basically, is what you're
Correct.
saying, right? Yeah. Okay.
Correct. So
But
there could
I
be.
was I was gonna ask you if other things, if you don't mind. Like, do you, when, let's say you're looking at an average 2 to 4 unit deal, um, do you look into the gross multiplier? Do you use that at all? Do you use appreciation at all? Like, to, let's say at a month to month basis, like let's say you understand what the annual appreciation for a deal is, and then you kind of use that to say, okay, well, at least the deal would make sense in terms of holding it, even if the income metrics are not there for whatever reason at the moment. Do you make sense sometimes of deals in appreciation rates, like historical appreciation rates?
Yes. So that is just one variable that goes into uh, multifamily underwriting. But yes, they also look at that historic appreciation. What so right now, if you're buying a multifamily deal and you are betting on interest rates going down, then just interest rates going down alone is going to give you a bump in your valuation. But at the same time, the investors buying, or at the time of your, like at the time of your uh at the time when you are ready to sell that property, will be cautious 3 years down the road, because they have seen what happened in 2022 and 3 when interest rates went up. So even though interest rates go down, they are going to be a little more cautious to pay that higher, like, or that premium. So all these factors come into play when you but appreciation is one of them. And in some markets, appreciation is really high, and in some markets it's not as much. It also depends on, historically we may have seen, say, 3% appreciation in Houston market, but in today's date, it's highly unlikely that it's going to continue that way for the next 3 to 4 years, because we are, because of inflation. We have already seen prices go up during COVID. So uh, until the entire market normalizes, it's hard to say what's going to happen and how people are going to underwrite their deals based on, what models they're going to use. So it needs uh, a very professional approach to underwrite multifamily deal, and there is a lot that goes into it. It's not just one thing. I mean, uh, so I think for multifamily underwriting, it's best to work with someone who has done this, and oftentimes it's your broker who is sending you the deal. You can reach out to them for help with a lot of these things, and always good to have, good to be part of certain communities that do multifamily. If there is a deal, I would love to look at it and break it down on this call. Next time you have a deal, feel free to bring it here and we can all learn together. And I have some people that are amazing at underwriting multifamily. I can bring them on, and because every year things are different. Every year the models are different because of the way the economy changes. So what I haven't done a multifamily deal in last 2 years. So my models are before interest rates went up. I keep it like updated. I'm still looking at deals, but nothing out there that makes sense. And on the other side, single family always makes sense. So I'm building my strategy and my business based on single family. It's not very common. There are very few companies that are scaling in the single family space, and we are one of them. But again, even single family is struggling, but at least you walk into equity when you are purchasing a property. So there is always that option to flip it on the market. So, but in multifamily case, the exit strategies are very, very limited. So, but yeah, if you have a deal next time, please bring it on this call. We can all look at it together.
Thank you. Thank you for this. I'm actually working. I refer the multifamily because it's quite a thing that I still looking to understand and learn. I do come across some
Yeah.
of them that, of course, they're coming from, like you said, from brokers who have them, and basically they're not selling it. So when I introduced the idea of seller finance, they said, "Well, make me an offer
Yes.
or introduce me, some numbers," and then that's when I get into the underwriting process of these deals that I don't know
Yeah.
how to underwrite. So for that matter, I was bringing that, but I am actually dealing with small multifamilies in different states right now that I'm looking at because of the No One Left Behind challenge. So I was wondering if I should bring him up, because I have to ask the other people, since they're still being negotiated, if I can bring him up. I don't know if this is something that because I'll bring it up, but we're still actually on the contract. We're not on the contract on some of this stuff. Do you think it's appropriate to share it in the group or not?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's fine. Again, if you think, because I mean, we don't have a big group of people who are buying multifamily on a regular basis, and anything you have in multifamily from brokers is public knowledge. I mean, all brokers
No.
are accessible for everyone.
Yeah, I'm referring to to smaller, basically single family deals that I'm underwriting as of now. Um,
If you
so
have it under contract and you're okay to share it, by all means. I can't guarantee that. I mean,
sure,
as much
sure.
as I love everybody in the group, I can't speak for their intent. But we have a smaller group at the moment, so I don't think that's gonna happen. It's very unlikely. I mean, someone else is pursuing the same lead unless you share like very, very specific information that, oh, a seller is ready to sell this for 25% of the market value. Then it's a different story.
Yeah, but we've
And
we've
even
definitely,
then they have.
yeah, we've had people
Go ahead.
who haven't exactly had things under contract, or they're just getting under contract, or a lot of different parts of the deal, and we've been able to help them. So if you want to, if you're comfortable enough with sharing it with us, feel free to do so. Yeah. George, did you
Awesome.
send the email to Chai?
I believe I did. Hopefully, I sent it to the right email. I don't know if I exactly sent all the information that he needed.
Yeah, I got it.
Perfect.
Yeah, that one's a foreclosure. I don't think it's a lot of people backed out of it because of how much it's behind and how much the arrears are. And so, like I said, based on the fact that there's not too many comps in that area to take that risk.
Hey, I'm gonna put it on mute for just a minute.
Good. And how did you get this deal?
Actually, yeah, I do a lot of outbound Jada on foreclosures. So this was a foreclosure lead here in Houston that's going to foreclosure actually on Tuesday. And so they responded and we had a pretty good conversation and went to go see the property and kind of saw the numbers. And my original buyer, he doesn't really mess with anything above 300K. So like, yeah, George, I don't think this is good for us. I mean, I wouldn't buy it. And so trying to reach out to, the rest of the sub two community and seeing, what their responses are. Cause I know well, I learned from somebody else, just because it's not a deal for one person, it may not be it may be a deal for somebody else.
I know that Brad and Andrew and Regina and Jeff, like, I don't think 300 is their minimum. I think they go up to like 4, maybe more.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But that was my original question, Jada. It is obviously learning that obviously in the closer standpoint, like, hey George, I got a deal to close, and I'm having the conversations like, sounds like you're not ready to sell, right, Jada? Yep. Sounds like I'm wasting my time. Yeah, like, oh, and I don't want to, and I'm pretty sure the same thing with underwriting, but I do know people like Shy may enjoy that because it is crunching the numbers and knowing what basic numbers I need to even see if I need to dig into further. But if it doesn't pass this test, then it's not a deal. And so it's learning, I guess, kind of doing the basics to where am I bringing something valuable to somebody, or am I wasting my time? Because it is like, oh man, I would love to help you, Jada, but man, these numbers don't make sense. And
Yeah.
I don't have a problem saying that either. It's just at least having the numbers that back me up of why I can't give you what you're asking for.
No, absolutely. So for the deals that you've done so far, have you been underwriting them, or have you had somebody else help you to get those numbers?
The cash deals, I've been able to underwrite them myself, and I have been working with a couple people with on market little to no equity, and kind of having a cheat sheet where it is, the ARV is basically what they're asking for, subtracting about 10% off of that, then subtracting what they currently owe on the property, and that's kind of like the wiggle room what we can potentially give the seller to walk away with, and been pretty good at that. But it's having the conversation with the agent of bringing that math to them as well, or learning what not to say or what to say, because I may be too truthful. And I guess that's the part I'm learning. Like, don't give them everything, George. Like, why not? I thought we're supposed to be trustworthy, but it's learning that game still of being a better closer.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Joel says he feels that.
Yeah.
A lot of times, at least from when I was doing wholesaling, and I would listen in on our closers conversations, and we were doing a lot of creative deals. It was just being really honest, where it's like, okay, you want this much down, like you want 20,000 down. Well, like we can do that, or we can buy like 2 or 3 other properties for that much amount of money.
True.
Like, so that could be one thing if they're wanting a lot down, or it's like, okay, do you just want it or do you need it? Like, what's a want and what's the need? What are you planning to do once you sell the house?
True.
So that is one. And then another one is also going into, like if you're going into the numbers, you're like, I need to make a living. Like
Right.
let's say that you're trying to buy a creative deal, and let's say it's a hybrid. So it's a sub two, so you're taking over the mortgage payments, and then you have now extra payments to pay the seller. Or at least let's say that that's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do that, you don't have any kind of cash flow, or maybe you have $100 and maybe of cash flow. I think that could be another good thing, just letting them know, like, I can't do $100 of cash flow. Like, you have the property right now. Let's say it's a rental. Like, what are you getting as a rental? And you're like, that makes sense, right? So, it has to make sense for both sides.
True. And I guess having a bunch of those to where it does feel like, say, it comes down to underwriting, where you know how far to either underwrite this deal, or you know how far to take this conversation, where the numbers based on my basic underwriting, I don't think Shai's even gonna look at this, so let me not waste the time but be able to explain why based on what you just mentioned as far as just simple rents.
No, I'm looking at it right now. So 700,000 ARV, 415 balance on mortgage, 150 behind on mortgage. So 100 rehab cost. So 100 rehab, 150 behind. So 415 plus 150 plus 100. That is 555 plus 665. So you're all in 665,000 for a property that is worth 700,000.
Real tight. It's, based on what you just said right now,
Yeah, I mean, that's your answer.
Right.
Your selling cost is going to be more than the equity you have.
Gotcha. And
that's why it's not a deal.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's not a deal because it's near ghetto or whatever. It's not a deal because the numbers don't make sense.
Right.
Yeah, now I see it. And plus there is 25,000 sellers want to walk away with.
Right.
I mean, I would laugh at this seller.
Gotcha.
At that appointment.
And I think we kindly backed off, and that's why I kind of, let me just double check. But I appreciate you looking it over.
Tell them by foreclosing on this deal, or not foreclosing, by letting the mortgage company foreclosing on this deal, you're gonna walk away with 250 grand.
Oh, okay.
That you currently have to actually put in to make it work. because they've already literally milked everything out of it. They are
True, true.
behind 150.
Yeah,
They
they
are, then it needs 100,000 rehab. So that lender is fucked, basically, for
Got
lack
it.
of better words.
Right.
So that lender is going to have a big write-off exactly worth 250 grand. So by letting them foreclose, the seller is actually making 250 grand.
Mm.
So some sellers get foreclosed for nothing. This seller is actually making 250 grand out of it. I mean, they've
Right.
already made 250 grand because they haven't paid those payments for a long time,
Got it.
and
Makes
they've
sense.
destroyed the property. Like, if any other seller does that, they have to pay out of pocket to come out of that hole.
True.
These guys don't, by letting it just foreclose and walk away. So their record is going to get ruined, but they are practically making 250 grand.
Right. Okay. And I guess I was missing because before you broke that down, Sha, I did have like I said around 100, but I guess I didn't include like say the selling cost maybe because it is a higher dollar
Yeah, I
property.
mean, so 700,000 for those of you that are from California or New York. It's a very high-end house in Houston. Not a very high-end, but it's up there. Like, it's an expensive property. It's not a basic property like California. 700,000 is expensive. One, because the property prices are a lot lower compared to California, and two, because we pay 3 times as much tax. So $700,000 house has to pay tax almost equivalent to $2 million house compared to California, because our tax rate is 3% and yours is 1.
Mm.
So $700,000 house, before I touch that kind of house for a flip, I need to make sure I'm getting a really sweet deal. So, and this is nowhere close to a sweet deal.
Got
This
it.
is not, forget about 70% minus repairs. This is more like 110% minus repairs.
Mm.
Okay, so this is over market. So this is what happens when you don't have underwriting in your tool belt.
True.
You are going to spend time on a deal. This is, let's say, if this is the first one in your inbox tomorrow morning, your day tomorrow is going to be the least productive of the entire week,
True.
because you're going to spend time on this deal the whole day when you should have rejected this within 5 seconds of looking at it.
Very true.
That's what I say, 5-second underwriting rule. And just move on to where the numbers stack up to where they're at least 80% minus repairs,
Okay.
if not 70. That's where the fun starts, because you start with a conservative valuation and then come up with 80%, and then try to work with the wholesaler and negotiate it down, then try to work with your contractor and lower the rehab amount, and then try to work with your realtor and push the valuation up from where you initially thought was conservative. So that's how you stretch the deal and make it 70%. That's the deal you spend time on. That's how you become more productive. Because guess what? Like, you don't get rich slow.
No.
So it is so important to get there faster. That's all. That's what underwriting will do to you.
And Mario,
Because people, yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Mario.
No, I mean, I was just looking at it. You have 2 options, a partial claim, and you also have a short sale. I mean, that's the only reason I would even do this deal. They're unrealistic if they want any money out of it. I've been doing foreclosures for a long time.
But even then, I mean, great point, Mario. But even then, there is 100K rehab to be done.
Right, but I mean, you can do Um, it depends on my crew would know what the hell they're doing. A lot of people, 100K. I use that when I'm negotiating a short sale with the bank or servicing company.
Correct.
But obviously, what I have is 100K could really only cost me, 60 or 50K. You're also, if you're rehabbing it for a rental, then it's not the same as rehabbing it for, end buyer who's going to buy
Sale.
it.
Yeah. Flip.
So, I mean, I would probably do a 7-year lease with the option to buy going to play on these house.
Correct. I mean, if there is a strategy out there to make this deal actually happen, it's a short sale.
Right.
Either that or a
Yeah.
partial claim where you take the 150K, you slap it on top of the current existing thing, get rid of the foreclosure completely, take the pity, whatever the hell it is, and see if the pity is, let's say, 1,500 a month, but rents are prevailing at 3,500 a month. You can do a 2,000
Yeah.
a month cash flow. So you'd have to check that out. That should take about 10 minutes.
So you would have to make an offer to the mortgage company. For those who don't know what short sale is, you'd have to make an offer to the mortgage company for 70% minus repairs using the 100K number. I mean, if you can get the mortgage company to agree on a short sale, this is going into foreclosure, right?
On Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might
So
be too late.
that's another thing, that if it's already going into foreclosure, you have very limited time to make the short sale happen, but you can always try. So in that situation, if you have your realtor ready who knows what the hell they are doing for short sale and everything, then you can make that offer to them. And then you talk to the mortgage company yourself and then send them that contract and see if they work with you in that month. But I will prepare the contract, have the seller sign, submit it to the lender, and then be done with it. Because the more you try to get creative,
Right.
you're not only going to lose a day, you are going to lose almost a month over something like this. That may or may not happen, probably may not happen. I mean, may not happen is highly likely scenario in something like this.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you,
But
Mario.
yeah,
Thank you,
I
Shai.
mean, great point though, Mario. Thank you for short sale point. I should have mentioned that.
And I know Xavier also sent you a couple deals, Chad.
Okay, let me see. Okay, so these I have to look at it, and I mean, are these time sensitive, Xavier?
So I'm actually working on them. I have agreements to pending on execution for
And
the.
I apologize. I'm actually, I mean, I have a lot going on here on my vacation in India. A lot of people to visit and stuff. So I wish I was in front of my computer. This needs more research because it's not in Houston area for me to just give you an answer based on the tribal knowledge. But this will need some research as to where they are located, how much rent rates there are, what other
I can tell
strategies are
you.
available. Yeah.
I can tell you some of that stuff since I've done some of my own research and break it down in numbers from what I've done, and you can tell me if it sounds about right. So
So
I'm
Maple
basically
Hill, what's the rent rate there?
so rent rate. Basically, this is a 2 bedroom, one bath property in basically decent neighborhood in Michigan. The average home sits at around 120 to 130
They were asking for 140, and basically they were no comps at 140, even though another one sold for 150, and it was like, but it was a 3-bedroom house, 1 bath. So I got the deal that I have is a 2-bedroom house, 2 bath, and the situation is basically they're young guys looking to move out, and they moved out already, so they have now a mortgage while they're renting somewhere else. They are looking to buy, so I pitch in the sub two, and I offer to basically put in a servicing company so that they can prove that this is no longer in their debt to income ratio. So numbers wise,
Right.
the rent rate, it's 1,100 to 1,200. So historically, like I use rentometer, rentometer as people say it,
Correct.
and it says that the 25th, basically from 25% below, they rent at about 980. And so their current mortgage, their PITI, it's 980 exactly. And I asked the realtor for some advice, and I called a management company, a local management company there, to get an idea for what they think the rent rate is. And they
Right,
say that
right. So
I can
I mean, I
say,
think I got most of the information. I'll tell
Yeah.
you an answer based on some, I mean, information you gave me so far. So cash to seller 10,000, remaining 29,000, which
in a
means you
5-year
have to pay
balloon,
that.
in a
Yeah,
5-year
and
balloon,
you have to
yeah.
pay that
No
to
interest.
bring it current. Oh, okay.
No. The home is current. They've been paying. I will be just taking the deal sub two, and it's I'm paying them 10K up front. Basically, I'm paying the agent 3% commission, and then
So you're
it's
all in around 20 grand.
20 grand. Yes, 20 grand.
So the
And
problem, however, is still the rent rate is 1,100. So your cash flow is like 150 to 200,
Yes.
250.
Yeah,
If you factor in maintenance vacancy, I think
no
you
cash
can
flow.
pretty
Yeah,
much consider it as no cash flow.
yeah.
So do you want to park your $20,000 for no cash flow? That is the question.
I was so
Second
that's why I
option,
ask you.
yeah,
That's why I ask you if you guys saw the appreciation as a criteria, because I saw, basically I ran the numbers, and it looks like the home has been appreciating at about 8% annually. So if I
sure.
make my
I mean, you can,
calculations, yeah.
yeah,
Sure.
you can consider that in your own underwriting scenario.
Mhm.
But as a general underwriting scenario, most investors are not, I mean, buying, again, I don't know. I mean, I know Lansing, Michigan. I just don't know what the economic development there is to tell you this, I mean, give you this answer. But I'll give you a generic answer to that, which is more like, I mean, again, it's a personal situation question. Do you have a great W-2 or any other business that is making a lot of money, where if things go wrong or it's in between tenants or whatever situation it is, can you pay this, make this PITI payment on out of pocket? And
Yeah,
that's only
yeah,
going to rack up
absolutely.
your out of pocket on this house. That's
Yeah.
question one, because you're pretty much paying market price for this, right? So if you, I mean, only people that build their strategy based on appreciation have a lot going on somewhere else and making a lot of money somewhere else. So that's why you don't worry about cash flow. In fact, in this case, you not only not have cash flow, you may have to put money out of pocket into this deal from time to time. So if you're okay with that scenario and wait for say 5 years and then sell it for 40% higher, not a bad scenario. Okay. But again, will I do this? No. I like everything. I want everything in my deal. And that's because I underwrite hundreds of deals in a week. And I do find a lot sweeter deals than this all the time. So I go after those 100K spreads where I can sell and make 100K or rent and hold it in my portfolio and wait on appreciation while my equity is still there and tax free while I'm holding it. And then I will 1031 it. I can tell you 1,000 things I do to create an end-to-end tax shelter for my properties. But when I buy them at absolute best price possible. This is, again, you're adding creativity and you're trying to see it differently, which is not wrong. And a lot of people that are not full-time like me or that are not invested in this business so much like me, they just buy a property to buy a property. That's it. And then 10, 20 years later, they've seen a lot of appreciation. Maybe it has more than doubled in some situations, and they sell it, which is totally fine. I mean, you can do that, but that's a personal question for you. Is that the scenario you're okay with? If you have 20K in hand and you have not developed your underwriting skill and you have not promoted yourself to where you're getting hundreds of deals in your inbox every day, then yes, because that 20K is not waiting on you to develop those skills. So those 20K, that money needs to be parked somewhere in a scenario, whether it's appreciation scenario, or cash flow scenario. So you have to ask yourself that question, that what is your personal situation and if this is the best case scenario for you. But yeah, if it's 8% appreciation, it can be a good deal.
Mario, what
That's
did
a good number.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
that's also a good number for a 1031 exchange. It's also, I do that a lot
Correct.
when I won't get private capital, so I'll get a PML person to come in and invest in this opportunity. I sure as hell wouldn't tie up 20K of my money for that, but it's a good long-term play. It's like getting a tax when I buy tax notes, and that you're
Right.
letting somebody else do that, or when I buy raw land and make it fully entitled, I'm giving it to other PML guys at 1031 exchange. Let them spend the money and hold it for 3-4 years. So,
Yeah.
but what I'm puzzled is, why do you have to give this guy 10,000?
Yeah. No, so Mario is very advanced in what he does, and he has crossed lot of those levels. But if you are just starting out, and you're in the right place for first of all, I mean, you're getting a lot of help. There's a lot of people adding dropping a lot of good gems. Like Mario just questioned, I mean, if you're paying full market value, why are you putting 10 grand in their pocket? I mean, you can just say, hey, I'll just take this over and you're out. Don't worry about it. No 10 grand. So minimize. So always try to negotiate more than you think you can.
Sure,
So
sure.
yeah, great point.
I appreciate the feedback because it helps me get better at this. So I was looking at the deal. Basically, they hold about 10 to 15, 20K basically. If it sells at market value and they hold about 20K. So technically, I figure, okay, this is a deal where if I hold it for 3-5 years, there's probably about 60 grand in my eyes, just by holding it and holding this deal on a month-to-month basis. So I figure, but I guess what I'm trying to understand is, from your eyes, if a deal is about 960, let's say with 10% management, it's about let's say 10% management, and then let's say, I don't know, utilities about $100. So I'm not cash flowing. You wouldn't do a deal like that in your criteria, because you're not looking at appreciation. You're checking off on cash flow. You're checking off on price to value, right? And you're looking at that, not your criteria. But do you think it's a decent criteria for even a wholesale deal or not?
Mario says no.
Okay.
There's no meat on the bone.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
Okay. So I have another deal that I'm working on. It's a multi-family. Long story short, it's in a prime area in real estate, prime real estate area here in Miami. A few blocks up, and it's already in the most expensive neighborhood of Miami. So it's a
But
multi-family. I developed.
just based on those numbers, 720,000 cash and total rent rate is maximum 4,400. I can almost tell you certainly it's not going to cash flow. Again, in
Yeah.
Miami, people do deals with completely different underwriting models because of the appreciation scenario. So I couldn't tell you. Miami is the only city where I try not to advise anything to people because I have struggled myself big time when we had a wholesaling operation there long time ago, that is. But yeah, I mean, if there is anybody else who has input on that, I'm happy to learn myself.
I don't blame you. I've actually just I don't understand a lot of the things here.
Because I can't
Uh,
see how it's gonna cash flow. I just can't. The way
see, I don't understand some things, but they somehow appear to work. So I said, okay, well, I'm either the one selling or you know, because someone else is gonna sell, and I might as well be the one selling. So, but then I look at it, and of course, as I've shared some data to other people, and other people get back to me and say, no, if it doesn't cash flow, it's no deal. 5 days after, someone else is buying it at even more than I was looking at wholesale it to. So I'm looking at it, okay, well, maybe I ask someone who's not seeing the eyes of a local, you know. So then I say, okay,
yeah,
next time I'm gonna look at it with different eyes. But it's always different. The criteria is always different, you know. So I can't have a solid feel for a deal in an area where people don't look at it with investor eyes or with, you know,
yeah,
value eyes, and it's a hard. So the only thing I'm into this deal is because it's it's 3 blocks away from one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Miami. So technically, a lot of these hedge fund guys would make sense of a deal just
yeah.
that close
And
to their stuff, you know.
the
But
best way to get more information is actually ask your local dispo outlet how much this will sell for.
what do you mean with local dispo outlet?
Like anybody who specializes in disposition of wholesale properties, like in Houston, we have a company called New Western. I always check with them, hey, how much will you pay me? Or how much you think you can sell this for? They tell me, yeah, I think I can pay you 730. Then you know you have some delta to work with. So, but if they
Okay.
came back and told you 620, then you know for sure you don't want to touch it. It's gonna be like pulling teeth to make it happen.
that's a great tip.
So that's my my litmus test.
So I was doing it basically asking the buyers that I have so far, what is their feedback? Some of them said that's not my deal, but if I was going to buy it, I needed to be around this price, and that's kind of how I'm working some stuff. But even though sometimes I'm asking buyers if that's what their feedback is on deals, if I
Yeah.
use that criteria locally, right? And if I use that criteria locally, then there's someone else from New York coming here and say, I'm gonna buy this deal way above their numbers, you know, and say, okay, so how do people actually make sense of numbers and data when others just disregard that, you know? It's weird. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna take your advice on that. At least I go rely on dispo people who can tell me, you know, what their deal can sell for in their eyes, and maybe that's the best way to get a deal forward. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mario.
Okay.
Yeah, Javier, the two things you gotta stick with. Oh,
Go ahead. It's fine.
I thought he made a wait. All right. The two things you want to do is Don't compete yourself with the hedge fund guys. Hedge fund guys, I use them for $100 million multi acquisition. I go and talk to them because they're looking for a tax depreciation, but they're also looking for me to acquire an asset. Give them, if they lend me $100 million and I show an underwriting, show them that I had $100 million, I have the crew that can, if they're going so happy,
Ah,
don't compare.
Mario, we're losing you. You're sounding like a robot. Oh, and now he's gone. No,
Is that better? No?
it's a little better now.
Okay.
Go
The
ahead.
other thing you might want to do is take a look at your mortgage loan officers. And Javier, when you're dealing with these deals, say who in your book of business in your pipeline right now currently qualifies for a $400,000 acquisition. I usually go when I'm doing a rehab, I'll ask the loan officers, do you have somebody qualified for 400,000? In about 6 weeks, they're going to have a property at the ARV is around 450. Can you bring in those people who are qualified for 400,000? And that's an end person. But don't mix the end buyer from a loan officer with the same thing as a hedge fund guy. The hedge fund guys, they're buying at the depreciation play and a way different strategy than an end buyer.
That's
Thank you,
great.
man. Appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't even cross my mind to get a loan officer to basically bring out a lead. Yes. Thank you. That's awesome. Thank
Mario,
you,
how
man.
long have you been doing everything for? I realized that we haven't asked you to like introduce yourself. Introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What have you done?
I'm a quiet New Yorker. No, I'm not quiet by no means. I'm out of New York. My partner and I are in Boston currently. Um, I like it in New York. I'll let Pace play over in Arizona, and you can stay the hell away from New York. It's more money for me. Um, what I do is we do a lot of foreclosure. I was a mortgage bank for 19 years. I was Merrill Lynch trained in the 80s, and I was a contract in the 70s and 80s. So I bring that to the plate. I currently, we are acquiring multifamilies. I have the crew that can build it. So when I approach the hedge fund guys, I tell them, look, our crew can evaluate the project, underwrite the project, and complete the project. So if you lend us 55 billion, we can get an acquisition, an LP position on it at 55 billion. But the end product in 18 months, we can make it at $255 million. So that's how I get the hedge fund guys to give me a line of credit. The other thing I like doing is a lot of corporate credit plays versus hard money, because this way you're able to be the hard money and the down payment money and the private money at the same time. So it's very similar to what you do SCR. I wanted to ask you and the gentleman, I forgot his name, Chai?
Chai.
Yeah, Chai. Yeah, why you guys don't like, I like Section 8 because they pay, I like fellow veterans because they pay versus your typical person who, oh, Trump came in, so I'm not going to pay my rent. In New York, it's very landlord tenant. I mean, not tenant friendly, not landlord, but I don't really give a damn by doing the Section 8 and by veteran vouching, which is one thing I do. Um, I even during COVID, we got paid. So I'm a little puzzled why you guys don't like Section 8, or I got the impression. Did he
Um,
say he didn't like it? He
yeah.
said that there was a lot of people not paying.
Um, no, I don't know if you mentioned it earlier today, but like Chai does a ton of Section 8. I think there's some right now in certain areas of Texas, they're kind of holding back on a lot. Like a lot of people are going into it thinking like, oh, I'm going to go on and do Section 8. But they don't realize that a lot of the pricing and the rental, like the voucher amount is really different than what they initially thought. So that's the only thing that I've spoken with him about lately. But no,
Okay.
Section 8.
All right, because what I like doing is I'll go to the mayor, tell them and talk to the mayor and get the 19 non-performing assets in the community, take those deals down, to have them introduce me to the Section 8 division heads. I get their actual voucher. They'll tell me there's 40 families. So we'll go out and buy 100 units in that area, and we'll provide housing for those 100 families with guaranteed vouchers. Same thing in the military. If you zero in near the military or development, we can provide housing for the builders of developments, because most developers like me, they put and house the contractors, subcontractors in a hotel. We provide them a either single family resident fully furnished, or we provide them a rental opportunity in one of our 50 unit apartment buildings. So
Nice.
it's just a different play. I was just curious.
That's really interesting too. It's kind of like I know some people who do a lot of arbitrage and they do a lot more like corporate rentals. So they'll go to corporate or relocation companies and say, hey, where do you have a lot of inventory, or not inventory, where do you have a lot of clients that are looking for places to go usually? And they're like, cool. If I buy a property here, just choose what house you want me to buy and I will buy it, or I will rent it out and arbitrage it. I'll rent it out and then you'll have a place for any of your clients that are within this area. It's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way also because, builders, it's an 18-month to 2-year play, maybe 3 years. So it's a great way to provide it. Plus, if you're getting all these foreclosed houses and you're letting them, the contractors do it, they automatically rehab the house for you. So it's a second side gig. And the other thing really nice about it is that you're able to, especially in Florida, they're doing the fully entitled in 18 months to 6 months versus up here in Mass, in New York, it's 18 months to 3 years to get it go from raw land to fully entitled. So, you know, but the problem is down there in Florida, I'm waiting for all the seniors who moved down there. I think it's going to be a great. The insurance went from 200 a month down to up 800 to 1,200 a month. It's really going to hurt a lot of senior citizens. So what I want to do is acquire through hedge fund guys, take out 5 houses. Um, that's probably a 6-mile radius. Gives me the ability to knock down those 3 to 5 houses and put a 300 unit apartment building that I have a crew that can do that. And we'll build and, do a medical play that I do all the time.
Interesting. So do you do a lot of work in Miami? Like is Xavier able to go to you if he has any questions for deals over there?
Yeah, I mean, I'll work with anybody anywhere. I will become a banker again. It's only 20 million to become a bank, and I will be a hedge fund guy again. So, I'm going to go back and play in that arena. So,
Love it.
yeah, I mean, I have a crew that can.
Thank you.
Hedge fund guys got a big problem. They don't like lending the money to deploy it, and then they never complete it. They don't have builders like us. So we come in and we say, we evaluate the project. Yep, we can do this. You'll need 100 crew members, and it'll take us 18 months. And we can take your 55 million that you gave us in the line of credit, and we can make it a $255 million return on your money. So they're like that.
Cool. Thank you, Mario. Dropping all gems today. It was fantastic.
Thank you. I'm learning. I'm hearing it, and whoa, experience is talking. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you guys for this. I don't know. It's first time I'm here. I didn't mean to interrupt you guys, but it's first time I'm here. I don't know much how you guys. What's the concept that you typically do? But I was wondering if you guys could maybe share some details that you think are valuable for comping details for underwriting that maybe can be that we can say, you know what, I can implement this and help myself be more effective on underwriting a deal, even though of course it takes experience, it takes stuff. But do you guys have like a framework that at least you go and see? Because I think I heard Chai was a Chai, right? say that he does basically like a napkin underwriting first, and then real quick, and then he goes and then like a 1 hour underwriting, 3 day underwriting, whatever. So I was wondering, do you have? Sounds like you do have like a framework that you can share, or you that you would be open to sharing for help getting better at this underwriting game.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main things is just coming onto these Zooms, and let me see if I can share. So, we also have, I mean, it's like kind of napkin underwriting. Do you know how to comp?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I do. I use a lot of prop stream data. So I just based it on the comparables. I try to match comparables, and then I look at Zillow to kind of either correct or deny what, because it's kind of like coincident to lagging basically data, you know. So that's kind of how I like to compare. But again, one thing is believing, and I guess the true thing is when you think you know and maybe you don't know enough, you know. So I'm open to learning.
Well, a quick thing. So here, I'm just gonna go to George's deal that he had sent. So like quick napkin underwriting is like, okay, 700K ARV, 415K balance on the mortgage, 150. So that's 415 plus 150 to pay. So how much is that? 565. So that's 565, and then another 100K. So to put it into the deal. So that's 665. So 665 with an ARV of 700. That's not that, yeah, that's like 35K that people, if they don't think about closing costs and agent costs and like all those small things, they would be like, oh, 35K, that's a fine spread. But then it's like, no, you have all these things. One thing that we use, and we'll keep going back to this every now and then, but it's our super basic underwriting sheet. So this was a buy and hold example. This one, another kind of rental property strategy. But we have a whole Underwriting Power Hour Google Drive. So if you guys want access to this, just go to our Facebook page. I put it in the chat. Join our page, just post like a quick thing that you learned, or like, something, just so that we know if people like this or not, and to try to get more people in here, because we want to see more deals. But like, you'll have access to all of these. Let me see. First name position. I want to see if I can find one that's a flip. Like if you're trying to flip or wholesale. Oh my gosh, none of these are flips. That is so funny. But yeah, anyways, super basic thing, ARV, what are you going to buy it for? Oh, I don't like this here. ARV, negotiated offer. So this is the purchase price. We'll do closing costs. We already kind of have like basic built-in functions in here. So it's just, closing costs is the ARV, and maybe it's like 2% of that. How much is the rehab going to be? And then we'll go into like, okay, if you're going to use hard money, how would that look like? So if it was 3 points, we'll put it in there. If it's 12 points, 12%, how many months are you going to hold it? And it's just going through these basic things. And even in here as well, we'll have usually like, it depends on somebody's deals, because we kind of switch it up. But one thing that at least for me, I usually put in is like agent commissions. So let me see if I could find it in mine, in my sheets, because I like to, oh, here, hang of compass. Mine is super, super basic. So it's just ARV, purchase price, closing costs, hard money costs, and then pretty much if you were going to sell this is like when you're selling, then you look at the ARV again. So how much are you thinking that you're going to sell it? How much is the closing cost? About 2%. Agent commission, 6%. All right, this is how much you're going to net. So this is how much profit you're going to have all in all. So that's like the super, super basic. And I'll make this a sheet over here so I can give you this access to this sheet so you can see examples and like the ultra basic ways to just look at things. Yeah, it was a while since I've looked at these sheets.
Wow, I like it. Thank you for sharing. basically you're from what I quickly saw on your spreadsheets, you're looking at basically the three lenses of just the actual ARV minus I guess you're doing the formula that Chai said 70% minus repairs, and then you're factoring holding costs, and then you're just looking at it in terms of your closing costs, and then what's truly netting on terms, and then you're looking at cash on cash return. Basically, it's the framework that I saw there, basically, right?
Pretty much. And for certain
Yeah,
people,
awesome.
if you're just wholesaling, I don't think you have to go as in depth to think about like all the hard money costs. But that's pretty much the framework for wholesaling. If it's going to be your own deals, then you want to go into that. Like I had the hard money at 3 points and 12%. Like that's stuff that you want to factor in if it's your own deal.
Sure. I'm looking at it because sometimes, like, I have a property right now outside of Miami and PA that I spoke with the agent. The clients are dealing with they're fighting, basically their family members are fighting for that little equity on that property, and it's a completely distressed property. So they at their asking price is crazy. Of course, it's not selling. So the agent is like, okay, make me an offer that I can introduce to them, get the conversation started, and say, look, we haven't gotten anybody get us an offer at your asking price, but we do have an investor that is willing to go and buy it at this price. So, I was looking at it, and before I even threw numbers, because I haven't yet, I called in a few investors, local investors that are actually flipping these houses in that area. And they were scared. They're like, no, man, we haven't done a flip here for some time, even though it's Philadelphia, it's a big city. So, I mean, decent city, but they're scared. They're like, no, we're not, because it's criminal. I mean, there's a lot of criminals activity here. The Democrats are messing the city up. And it's like, they gave me a bunch of reasons, not one, like I called three. And then I said, wow, that's crazy. I thought maybe it was a 1 case scenario. So they're like, nah, it can make sense. It can be a great flip, but I'm not jumping on flips right now unless they're outside the city. And I'm like, interesting, because you would think investors would want to flip a house where it's basically a metro city, right? But they're going to the suburbs now, and I'm like, whoa, interesting. So I guess you learn from people who are buying that not only is the numbers, but the actual situations around that they could be. So I have another one in that same city, another investor that is bleeding out with homes that he flipped, and it's like he's trying to sell for 900K, and basically the costs of remodeling these homes are so high, and basically he put so much luxury on these homes that they're not selling, and he has three of those. And basically he's bleeding out. And so he says, the problem I have is that I don't want to rent them because people are going to come and trash my house. And the other problem I have is that even though my homes are beautiful around the house, it's like a lot of activities going on. So it's like a holding situation here. It's not on the best scenario. So interesting perspectives. You wouldn't put that into your number scenario, right? But they do make a part of that. So hard to deal with that.
Yeah, go ahead, Mario.
Well, I mean, I'm New Yorker, so I'm used to the drug dealers and that, so I don't mind going a block and buying very low income blocks. But a lot of people that turn around and buy a D paper and think that they can convert it to an A grade multifamily. Meanwhile, there's 12 drug dealers all over the block. So reconsider, ask cops. I put a cop as a superintendent into my system. Cops are going to go big, sitting there. They're going through a divorce. They need a place to stay. So they're my supers of it. Cops also, on the days off, they're working with their fellow cops, and I hire them to do maintenance of the building for me. And I have the power of them arresting everybody in the area. So I'm buying the block, and I'm putting cops into as the superintendents, because I was the superintendent in the 70s in my area in White Plains, New York. So what happens is cops will arrest everybody. So you're buying from absentee landlords at a discounted price to multi-families, but you're actually upgrading the block to an AP because you got rid of them all, rid of people. And the other might have is, instead of sell to an end buyer, sell it to a cop or fireman, first responders, because they're the only group of people whose wives don't bitch about that they're not turnkey. So they'll buy a house. In other words, let's say I buy something that I know the ARV is going to be 700,000. I'm going to negotiate a 310 acquisition with a 50K rehab, but I know that the ARV is going to be 600,000. So I'll sell it to a cop in 4 to 5 days at a discount. And that's, I say, I'd rather make 90,000 quickly than make 120,000 over rehab 6 months. So cops are the only ones I've noticed their spouses, because they bring all their fellow cops on the days off to rehab each other's houses. So if you give it to them, you save a shitload of money. It's a good way to wholesale.
Interesting. And how did you find the cops to buy these homes? Did you go through like agents or?
Well, I just bring donuts and coffee. No, I'm joking. I go to the precincts. So I just go to the precincts and talk to them. Because obviously I hung out with cops in New York City for a long time. So they're near me. So I talk to fire cops and they're first responders. Remember, a fireman sees elderly people, so he gives you an inside scoop of who's going to die in the next year or two. So that's a great target for that house. They're my referrals for houses that are deteriorating. They're about to go into the hospital, been in the hospital 3 times the last year. So that's a good indication. Reach out there and say, hey, can we help you in a trust? We'll come in and take over your property, and instead of losing it to a Medicaid Medicare, we'll put it into a trust and take over your payments and give you quality of life until you transition into another world or into assisted living facility. It's a great way to get referrals.
Damn, talk about creative. Oh my gosh. That is so fascinating. Yeah, Alex said that's badass, Mario. That is badass. And it's so sweet too. And I don't know if sweet's the right word, but to me it is. Like I like that it seems like you're liking everybody that you're working with. You're liking the first responders because that you can sell the houses to them and they're also bringing you leads. And then you're also caring about the people in the home too. You're saying, hey, I want to be able to, like what you said, provide a good way of life in the meantime for you. I love that. Yeah. I got you type of people in these calls. That's so cool. I feel so honored to have this group. Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you for making it happen. I appreciate the invite. So I missed the other one. I don't know. I was trying to log in, but it looks like I lost the link. I don't know. But I'm so glad that I was able to make it to this one. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And
Happy to connect with you guys.
Absolutely. And if you guys want these recordings or whatever, I'm starting to post it on YouTube. And then if you want to go through the extra work, go onto the Facebook, make a post, and I can send you like these recordings or the analysis sheets that we use. Go ahead, Mario.
I kind of wanted to ask you about DSCR. I was a loan officer at Morgan Bank for 19 years, but on the DSCR, am I right? If I can get $1 billion of corporate credit, are you lending me based upon 10% versus 20%? Because I can use my corporate credit to 10% down, and then you do the evaluation of the asset based upon the 90% of the vouchers, either Section 8 or that, or is it based upon I always have to bring in 10 to 20%, or is it that I can just have that there and you're going to underwrite it based upon that as a DSCR lender?
So
Does that make sense?
yeah, it made sense as you were talking, and then it kind of fluttered out of my brain. Oh my gosh, sorry, there's stuff outside. I mean, I would say it's more dependent on it depends on the person's experience, I think, more than anything. So I think since you have so much experience, that 10 to 20% down would just depend more on I think your experience, at least from my knowledge and my experience doing DSCR loans. Because otherwise, at least if it's a new borrower and a new investor, you know, it's really risk mitigation. I think that's where it's mainly at. So if it's new investor, whatever it may be, it could be a great deal, but it's like, hey, we don't know you. We also, I think Tri was talking about this earlier, like we don't know how much you know how to operate these things, kind of like when he was saying, like, you don't really know how to operate multifamily yet if you don't know any of that. So the same thing. And since you've been doing this and you were also in the loan industry as well, I think that would lend to helping with that, with either rate or percent down. With us, generally, we do about, I think the most we can do is about 80% LTV. And so the way that I like to talk about like trying to get people to that 10% down rather than 20 is if you bring in a second position lender, we'll allow second position up to 15%. So from that 80, we'll go down to 75, then 15%, and then 10% from the borrower. So that is one way that that we've been able to try to get those down payments down.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the last question is, would you be willing to talk to my multifamily group about the SCR plays? Would that be something you guys would be interested in talking to?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. Here, I
All
believe
right.
your number, but if anybody wants mine,
Yeah, I put it in.
perfect. Awesome, cool. Yeah, I'll make sure that that we touch base after this. Would love to work with you and learn from you. It was fun.
And we learn from each other, which is always good.
Absolutely. And hello, Colleen. We're about to wrap this up, but I am so glad you're here, and I hope you join again next week, Saturday at 12 p.m. Central. Cool. All right. Well, I think we're all good. If anybody has any questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, cool. Well, then you all have a wonderful Saturday. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for all the gems dropped and the deals that you guys brought in. And for Alex, I'm glad that you also stay and that you comment in the chat. And for Colleen for joining no matter what. So thank you guys. I'll see you again next week.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. You guys have a great one.
You too.